Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with a competitor from Australia who just turned pro at the start of this year and went straight to the pro stage. She is an online and in-person fitness, nutrition, and posing coach. I'm very happy to have her here, not just for her accent, but for her incredible knowledge and experience and awesome story too. So welcome to the show, Jess Johnson. How are you doing?
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Of course. Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy that you're here. And I know you said you listened to the show, so I got to ask you if there's something you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage.
I actually was thinking about this yesterday, and my biggest one is I just take a breath and I just tell myself, I've done all the work. You deserve this. Get out there and shine. I just try and just tell myself it's okay to be nervous, but let's get out there and just show them why you're here. Give them a show.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Also, I love how you say it's okay to be nervous, pretty much normalizing the experience so that you can actually accept it and be present in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing a lot of mindfulness work. I studied psychology as well, so I'm a big fan of mindfulness, like mindfulness eating, just mindfulness in all day life, and just accepting the emotions that we go through every day.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that you said that. So you studied psychology in college?
Yeah, so we call it university over here. It's so funny. So I was actually in the Air Force for 6 years full time, and then I was studying part time, doing it, I suppose, by correspondence, online. So yeah, it was tough, but I'm
Wow.
glad I got through it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I studied and currently study online. So I think it's awesome because it requires a lot of discipline. It requires a commitment, and I like it too because when you show up, it means you're ready to work. So I find I learn really well that way. But did you just say you were in the Air Force?
Yeah, I was in the Air Force. I'm still a reservist. But yeah, it was great. So I spent a fair bit of time over in America and stuff when because I was a flight attendant in the Air Force. So
Wow.
yeah, we traveled a lot before COVID.
Okay. So this is I honestly didn't know that about you. I felt like I did a lot of research, but I clearly didn't. Um, that is so cool. So what do you do as a flight attendant for the Air Force?
So basically we just take around the troops, so Army, Navy, Air Force, around to the different locations where they have exercises and stuff. How they run different exercises up in Darwin, they'll get
Mhm.
everyone up there and then they run all these different war games and stuff like that. So a lot of the USAF would go to Darwin as well, and they do red flag, they call them all different names.
Wow.
But yeah, we just take them to wherever they need to. So instead of putting everyone on civilian flights, we can just put all their stuff on our jet, and it's a lot better for us to control it. So then yeah, we can take 270 passengers with all their kitting, and we can take the aircraft as well. So the fighter jets, we would take them as well. As in we would refuel them as we're traveling 8 hours, because with the fighter jets they burn through the fuel so quick, so they kind of need that refueling jet to refuel them on the way. So I basically was on the tanker. So you guys have the KC-10s over there, and we were on the KC-30s in Australia. So yeah, so there might be some people that that know, but everyone's probably going to be like, oh, that's I'm just saying a whole bunch of words.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who's she's saying a whole bunch of words, but it doesn't mean I don't respect it at all. I think that's awesome. Both of my grandpas were in the Air Force, so I find it very fascinating, and I think it's really cool that you took that role, and actually you've enlightened me. I didn't even know about like what being a flight attendant for the Air Force meant. So that's special and that's pretty sweet. And you said you're a reservist currently. Does this mean you have a couple years of that? Is it if they call you and need you, you're gonna have to go?
Yeah, pretty much. So I'm last year I was doing like active days, and then this year I just do 20 days a year. So it's pretty much just like, yeah, if something happens and they can call, like they put out like an expression of interest for like COVID, for like when people were coming back and stuff. So there was like a few different jobs of like, working in the hotels, making sure people are like doing the right thing and stuff like that. So they put out an expression of interest for that, but I wasn't really too interested, to be honest, because I was like, oh, it means I can't go train.
I was wondering how that impacts bodybuilding, like if you were to get called or if you were ever called while bodybuilding.
Yeah, it was hard, like, especially when I was in full time. It was so hard competing while I was flying around the world and stuff. It was tough. And I think that's why I got out, was just because I knew, I was like, if I want to take this seriously and I would become a professional, like I need to actually get the lifestyle that's going to suit it. Just because at the time, like flying around and stuff, like I was here, there, everywhere, and it's just so hard to train and have that routine that you need in bodybuilding. So I did as much as I could while I was in the forces, like with bodybuilding and stuff. But then I felt like, okay, I really, if I want to take this seriously, I need to change my lifestyle. And then, yeah, that's why I left last year in January. And yeah, I'm just like, I'm so grateful for my time. But yeah, I felt like 6 years was enough, like, so now I'm helping women through coaching and personal training, which is great.
That is awesome. I appreciate you sharing that part of your story and your journey. And I know that you didn't necessarily start in the, I don't know what they call it in Australia, I forget, but what leads into the IFBB there? Is this, it's not the NPC, it's not called that, is it?
Oh, it's just called IFBB Pro League. Yeah.
Okay, but I mean before that, like what is it called when you're an amateur?
Oh, it's just called the IFBB Pro,
Oh,
the IFBB Pro League. Yeah, yeah. It's it's a bit strange, but it's
that
pretty
is
much just
so
like, yeah, like it's called the Pro League, and then you're like, wait, so are you a pro? You're not a pro. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. I actually thought that the other day. I was like, oh, that's so strange, because yeah, you guys have like NPC, and then you then go into like the Pro League.
yeah.
So yeah, we just have literally the IFBB Australia, I guess, and then
Ah,
yeah. So
interesting.
yeah, but I haven't always been an IFBB. I actually I dabbled in, I went overseas, like to America, and I did the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation,
Mhm.
and I also did the PNBA, so like Natural Olympia. So I was like a pro in like those federations, and I competed overseas and stuff. And I was like, okay, so what now? And then I came
Yeah.
back and I was like, well, I guess I'll do IFBB.
Oh my goodness, I love that. So you actually came to America to compete. Um, was this because there were limited options in Australia? Was it because you were going to travel there anyway?
Yeah, so pretty much like in Australia, we don't have like pro shows. Like, so um especially for like all the natural federations and stuff, like the world stage or like the pro show is always over like in America or somewhere else. So I guess like I did the state shows, I did the national shows, and then and I like turned pro over here for like all the natural federations, I guess. And then I then went overseas and did the World Natural Bodybuilding Federation. And then I placed second over there in the pro stage, like as bikini. And then after that, I was kind of like, okay, like,
Mhm.
if I want to keep competing, like I need to find a federation that has more than just the one show overseas, especially as a pro and stuff. And so then I came back and I was like, well, I'm happy to give up my pro status in those federations, and I'll go back down to an amateur and start again with IFBB and go from there. And IFBB is honestly like, it's the biggest and the best. Like, I'm a little bit biased, but it really is, because they have so many shows, like, and you can go so far with it. Where I found some of the other federations, I kind of like, I reached the pinnacle so early, and I was like, okay, so this is it. Like, uh,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I just wanted that extra challenge, and I I swapped over to IFBB 2018, and then I turned pro this year. So it has been a process.
Okay, that's so crazy because you said, in other federations you reach a pinnacle so quickly. And I think that's an important thing to recognize where you wanted to continue to challenge yourself. And I remember seeing some photos of you doing like figure posing before entering the IFBB, right?
Yeah, so they thought I was too big for bikini. So I kind of got like I hate saying pushed. Like I chose to do it, but I was kind of like told to go down the figure, I suppose, way,
Mhm.
just because my body, I was getting too much muscle, and they're like, "Oh, you're getting too muscular. Like, you would do pretty well in figure and stuff." So I actually am a figure pro in like the natural federations. It's so strange. It's so funny to think now, but it's just because like in those smaller competitions, because we have so many federations over here in Australia, it's crazy. So their muscle density isn't I suppose like it's not as developed as say like the NPC.
Mhm.
Um, so I think sometimes people try and get you to go up to that next level, of like, oh, you're not bikini anymore, so now you're figure. And then I was doing bikini and figure at the same time. I literally like did bikini pro show in the morning, and then got off stage, got changed, did figure in the afternoon, as an amateur, then turned pro as a figure athlete. So go
Wow,
figure.
that's
um,
crazy.
yeah, so it's really crazy. But my heart just wasn't in figure. I always knew like I loved bikini. I loved the posing where like I'm glad I did figure. Like it was interesting. Like it taught me a lot about how to pose my body, like especially like that those poses are so hard to hold. Um like I have a lot of respect for those women that do it, like, and it is a beautiful category, but it just I don't know, my heart just wasn't in it, and I think you have to go with what you love doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially from like a posing perspective. And I can imagine adjusting to the various posing styles, not just in those divisions, but also in the leagues. How have they influenced each other? Like, how has your past experience informed now what you do in the IFBB as a pro, or maybe when you're working with girls on their posing?
I think it was a little bit hard for me to kind of like, I suppose, like loosen up a little bit, because I was taught the figure poses and they're so structured. And yeah, but I guess it also taught me a lot about like how to be like a bit of a chameleon. Like I can just change my posing to change
Mm.
my body. It's taught me a lot. Just yeah, just to be able to be like, no, like you can't put me in a box. Like I can do anything and be anything that I want. So yeah, like, and then when I teach other girls, so a big federation here in Australia is the ICN. So that one is really good for like girls, like their first time and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like a lot of girls will do that before kind of like transitioning to IFBB, or sometimes girls just stick with ICN. It's and that's fine. But yeah, so I found like doing all those shows before swapping over to IFBB kind of gave me a lot of experience, just to like know what different federations, different classes, like different categories and stuff, what they're all looking for and the differences. And I think it's made me a better coach for when I coach other girls with their nutrition and training, and then also like their posing as well, just to so I can see like I can define like each category a little bit better, and because I've done it myself as well and know what it's like to try and like change my body to fit that category. I think I just have that experience and that knowledge that I can then help other women, do that for themselves.
Definitely. And I think it's interesting because posing now can be done anywhere. Like you can help someone anywhere in the world. And when you're posing clients virtually, how do you take that approach to make sure that they're nailing it, like from a footwork perspective or angles perspective?
Oh yeah, I'm probably super annoying. I'm like to my clients, hey, can you put me on the ground? Hey, can you move me like onto a chair or something? Like, But most of the time I'll get them to put me down low, so I'm looking up at them as if I'm, at the judge's kind of angle. And then I'll get them to also just like hold the camera as they're like walking, so that I can just see their foot placement. Or I just get them like to walk back and forth. Like I don't really care about their top half for a little bit. I'll just like literally just focus on their feet.
Mhm.
So it's a little bit like the camera angles and just like getting them to like put the camera somewhere where I can make sure I can see what they're doing. It is a little bit harder virtually, but then sometimes it's easier in some ways. Just because like in person, obviously I can just like mold the person. I can just like grab their shoulders and just twist them or whatever.
Mhm.
And where like virtually, obviously you have to try and like explain to them what you want them to do. But it's been a good challenge though, because I'm like, okay, so I want your left shoulder like angled slightly more towards me, or, pop that glute out a bit more. And then sometimes you have to say it a different way for it to click. Or I have to show them as well, because we all learn different ways. So it has been a good challenge. And I hope that, everyone's getting something out of it. Like I think I've got virtual clients and in-person clients, and some do both. And I think they both get something out of it. Like, and in some ways, virtual is a little bit better than in person, and in other ways, in person's better as well.
Makes sense. Yeah, I could see that even with training as well, like not just posing, but also training. And I definitely want to talk to you about your training style soon, but I want to kind of get into your journey right now, just from turning pro and then going on to your pro debut. So you've done a few shows since the start of the year. Can you tell us more about what guided your decision to go from placing and turning pro to then doing your pro debut, and how that unfolded really?
So it's pretty crazy. So the nationals where I turned pro, the pro show was straight after. Like literally, I'm talking like an hour, like it was in the same show. So it was like literally, I turned pro, and I think I had an hour to get ready for the pro show.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. Like, it was amazing. Honestly, I'm so grateful. Like, I got that experience. It was phenomenal, honestly. Like, and I knew that that was the possibility if leading into the show, that there was a pro show afterwards, and that whoever turned pro on the day got the opportunity to go straight into the pro show. And people ask me like, "Oh, you're gonna do it?" Like, or they're like, "Oh, if you do turn pro, like, would you go into it?" I'm like, "Of course I would." Like, I just get my heel on the stage. Like, I
Mhm.
just had no expectations of myself. I was just like, just so thrilled that I just won my pro card. I was just like, I'm just happy to be here, guys. Like, literally.
Yes.
I just was just in awe of all the pros as well, because all these girls like I've been looking up to throughout my preps and over the years and stuff. So I was just so happy to be there. And I just remember being backstage, and I was like, oh, that's right, I need to add a little bit into my routine. I quickly
Yeah,
tried to
what the
like
heck
add
did you
something in, like
do?
spice it up.
How did you do that? Because like to go with 1 hour to prepare and then you're like, "Oh, I now have like a long time on stage."
Yeah, it was, I kind of thought about it. Yeah, I definitely thought about it before, going into the show, because I was like, well, there's a possibility I could turn pro here, and if I have to get on the pro stage, like what am I gonna do? And basically I was just like, okay, like I will just add in the walk to the back, and then just do like basically my back routine, then walk back to the front, and then do my front routine, and then kind of like sign off. So I
Nice.
didn't really overcomplicate it. I just literally did what you would normally do like on the amateur stage. Like, you know how they get you to like
The
turn to the back.
comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, like the comparisons. So I pretty much just added that in, and I just like kind of spoke to my posing coach about it as well. She's like, just don't overcomplicate it. That's the biggest thing, because I'll be like, I was all sorts of like emotional, like I was crying on stage, like before I like when I got my pro
Mhm.
card, and I was just like so amped up and stuff. So I didn't want to overcomplicate it, and when you're just like so emotional that your brain's just like a potato. So
Yeah.
and I was so depleted as well. So I just was like, okay, like let's just keep it simple, get out there and have fun.
That's awesome. So you mentioned it was interesting and surreal to be back there near and next to all the girls that have inspired you for so long. And then you went on and didn't you place third?
Yeah, I did.
That
I
is
was honestly
amazing.
like, I was shocked, honestly. I was like, wow, okay. I've got something here, you know. I can definitely, yeah, I don't know. I think that was humongous to me. Like I was just like, wow, okay. I definitely need to keep doing this. Like I've got something here. I can do better and be better. And yeah, I think I can, you know, hopefully make Australia proud and come over to America and compete over there.
Yes, you have to. That'll be awesome. I mean, you'll have to do it for the Olympia one day anyway, right?
Fingers crossed, that's the goal.
I love that. So, and also, wasn't this like one of the first shows since COVID in Australia? Like was it one of the first shows back?
Yeah, it was. So I was actually prepping for season B 2020. And then yeah, that got cancelled 10 weeks out. And then yeah, there was no oh no, that was season A. So yeah, the season A show was literally just that show. So they did the state shows, but not every state had a show just because like some states were doing better than others. And then yeah, nationals was in Queensland, which is my state. And yeah, so very, very grateful that it all went ahead. Yeah, so first it was kind of like the first national show since COVID, which is crazy.
Okay, you just said a term I've not heard before, which was season A and season B.
Oh yeah, okay. Because um you guys, you have so many shows over there. I'm so jealous. So we pretty much have so what they call a season A, which is like we have shows at the start of the year. So normally it's like February, March. So normally like your state shows are like in February, and then your normally it's Arnold's, which is our nationals, is in March.
Okay.
And then we normally have like a mid-year show, which is like June, July, and then we have our end of year show, which is like season B, which is in like September, October. So yeah, we have,
Wow.
just because we don't have that many shows here. We only have so we only get 3 opportunities a year, like a normal year, to turn pro, and only one person turns pro at each show. So it is very fierce competition over here, and we have honestly like our amateurs are insane. Like our amateur lineup is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to people in Canada about this and how it seems that in places where there's less shows and less, I guess you could say, competitions to choose from, there's actually higher competition, in the sense that you guys are bringing more developed packages. You see a lot less girls who are just competing to compete. You see a lot more people who are competing to win. Um, it's just higher caliber, you could say. I don't believe that athletes in the US are not high caliber at all. Like, please, we're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so amazing, but you guys have 3 opportunities. So there's girls who probably compete for 10 years and never get a pro card.
Yeah, look, and there is definitely some girls that have been competing for years and they are pro worthy, and they've got, you know, pro like physiques, and they've got pro posing and stuff like that. But it's just that matter of like turning pro, and there's like we only have that, you know, those 3 shows a year. And like this year we've only had the one show so far. I don't think we're having a mid-year show. So then there's only 2 opportunities this year. Last year only one girl turned pro. So
Wow.
you know, in the last like what 2 years, we're only going to have 3 girls turn pro in 2 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's especially crazy because then the representation from Australia is a lot lower.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, I kind of like I wish like a little bit of me. I'm like, oh, it would be nice if they did a little bit more like what America did, and gave out more than one in the show,
Yeah,
because like
totally.
especially like the height classes, because it's like the because in overalls it's like short, medium, and tall, and um, like they've won their whole class, you know what I mean? So they've won open, tall, open, short, open, medium, and then those 3 winners that just placed first then go to, against each other for the overall win of winning the
Mhm.
pro card. So sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe like, you know, if there was girls that had that you know, that pro look, that pro physique and stuff, it would be good to see them awarded rather than just being like, oh, you didn't get it this time, try again next time. Because that's like
Yeah.
6 months later, like we don't have as many opportunities over here. And then, we're all like, I'm 26. So if I didn't get my pro card just then I'd have to wait till November. And then if I don't get it then that's like another, it's like
Yeah.
time. And it's like time's ticking. And then obviously we want to like try and get over to the Olympia, and that takes time as well. So
Mhm.
I think, yeah, I don't know what really can be done about it, but hopefully, I don't know, it just would be nice to see girls awarded that do look like they could just step on a pro stage.
I actually really appreciate you sharing your experience there, because myself, and I'm sure many listeners, are not aware of this. I have a lot of listeners in Australia, which is awesome, but I don't, of course, now I understand even more why there's not as many pros that I've had from Australia, because there's not as many as there are in the US. And I think it would be really awesome if it was like, okay, yeah, you guys still battle for the overall, but all the high class winners take their pro card. I think that would be really cool. I agree with you. It'd be nice to see some sort of change, especially just given what you've shared. And then that got me thinking, yeah, you have to bring a high caliber physique to the stage, but if you're dragging out a prep for 6 months, 12 months, because you want to get that pro card and you really think it's going to be like your show, that could potentially be harmful to your body, where might have to take a year off the next year, and then
Yeah.
you're back again later. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's tough, like, just having that one opportunity. Because yeah, I do know like a few girls that just do back to back to back to back, and then it then puts you back in the growth progress. Because yeah, then you're like, well, I just went back to back like 3 years in a row just to get my pro card, and then they haven't had a growth season in that time because they're just trying to chase that pro card. Yeah, and it does, I think, yeah, I think also too, like it does create a little bit of too much competition in regards to like the amateurs, like because like I think competition is healthy, but when it's so I suppose like you've got say 50 girls going in the open like height
Mhm.
classes, and you only get one pro card. So I think sometimes it can cause a little bit of friction backstage, like a little bit of tension backstage, just because like it is so high caliber and it's very like one shot, one opportunity kind of situation. So I think if they did have more opportunities, I think it would also allow for a little bit more of a friendlier vibe backstage.
Interesting. I just had the guest before. I want to say it was the guest before you. Yeah. Yeah, it is. So the guest before you was just talking about how much nicer girls are in the pro league than in the amateur league. And she's from America. And so I thought that was interesting. And she said, there's a lot more competitiveness in the amateur league. And I think you bring up a good point, like because of that. Now it's interesting you say like 50 girls going to the open show, because we'll have like 100, 200, massive amounts. And so I think that's really interesting. But we also, depending on the national show, will reward a certain amount of pro cards, or maybe it's only the overall, or maybe it's only the top three. So in the overall anyway. So that's cool. And again, I appreciate sharing that. And now when you did your pro debut, what was your feedback for you?
My feedback was to come in tighter in the glute hamstrings, and then also to work on my posing. So just like, yeah, just make it a little bit more flawless, especially like my walk to the back. I was um, a little bit nervous, and you just did a little stumble here and there and stuff, which isn't acceptable like in the pro league. You gotta look like a pro. You can't just have a little stumble here and there. You gotta really get out there and just like slay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are your goals now then?
So I'm aiming for end of year. So there is a national show in November. They haven't released any information about the pro show, but I do believe that they're going to try and put on another one end of the year. But I do know that there is There is a few around, but it's just like about the travel restrictions. Like I think New Zealand have a pro show as well. And we just got a travel bubble opened up, so Australia and New Zealand can travel in between each other. So that's definitely an option as well. But yeah, pretty much my goal is to just wait until the point system starts again, and then go hard for next year. And then hopefully I can come over to America next year as well, because I'd love to just go compete over in America in the pro shows over there, just to see the differences and see what it's like. It looks just so fun, and just to be able to like meet everyone and network and stuff. So that's definitely my goal for like end of next year, is to get over there. And yeah, and then like, you know, hopefully go to the Olympia, either be in it or be there anyway.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any shows that you've seen in the US, like pro shows happen, that you've wanted to do?
I definitely want to do like Jeanette's show,
Mhm.
and what else? I've seen like Clash of the Titans. I definitely want to get over like to Texas or something. I've never been to Texas before, so I'm like, yes, it looks fun. But yeah, there's a few like in like Vegas and LA and stuff. I love
Yeah.
Vegas. It's fun. I feel like my body really responds well to Vegas temperature as well. I don't know. I think it's like the dry heat. It just makes me look like really slim. Like,
Okay, that's so weird, because didn't you say you like spill over easily, or you hold a lot of water when you're in peak week, or when you're prepping, I should say?
yeah, so I'm very like sensitive to carbs and stuff, but I found when I was in Vegas, like when I competed over there for like the Natural Olympia,
Mhm.
um I literally, my body responded so well. I think just because the dry heat, where in Australia it's quite humid. So I found like my body just got tighter and tighter every day I was there. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing. I need to compete here again.
Wow, that's awesome. That, I mean, that kind of works out perfect, especially if they bring the Olympia back there.
Yeah, it probably also has to do with the fact that I was literally just sleeping, training, and eating. Like I was pretty much on a little holiday, you know?
Yeah, that's true. It'll be interesting to see how things change. And I'm curious, you just said that you're sensitive to carbs, and you've been competing now for a while. So how have you been able to really determine what works for your body, and how do you manipulate it and approach it? Like how have you determined that?
So I've got IBS. So I don't know if you know what that means,
Hmm.
but yeah, so like sensitive tummy basically. So I do have to be super careful with what I eat, like leading in. So peak week is like, I call it death week, because it's just horrible. Like you get nothing. It's just like no sauces, no like anything fun, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, like I cut out sweeteners and stuff like that. But yeah, basically it's a lot of trial and error. I remember when I first started working with my coach Scotty, um, and the first show we did, he carved me up, and I was like, Scott, don't carve me up. I'm like literally, I'm very sensitive to carbs. And he literally only gave me like, I don't know, I think it was like 150 grams of carbs. He's like, this is the most pathetic carb up I've ever seen. That was literally his words. And I was like, okay. And like, I trusted him and stuff. And yeah, like literally I woke up and I just look so fluidy. Like, I don't know.
Mm.
I would like I must say I wasn't lean enough for that show, and I was sick because I just got back from a trip with work. So I was like a little bit like jet lagged and stressed and inflamed and stuff. But yeah, like if I'm stressed, I find my body just gets really like fluidy and bloaty. So that's not fun. So I just find like for me, it's better for me to come in really depleted into the show. And then like if I'm looking like shredded, flat, whatever, then you carb me up and then I kind of feel out nicely. But I have a very fine line of like I fill out and then I just spill over. Like so I spill over quite quickly. So I find like literally the best times I've ever looked is I kind of just came in depleted, and then on the morning of the show day or something, I just had like, I don't know, Reese's peanut butter cup or something like that, and like some rice cakes with honey, and then I just kind of got on stage and I looked amazing. So it just wasn't too much, you know, like it's just like a few little things. Um, rather than like I see a lot of girls do like these huge carb ups, and I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like I wish I could eat like 4 boxes of cereal. That would be life.
Right?
But yeah, no, I would look so horrible. Like I would just look so bad if I did that. Like I would literally look like a blown up water balloon. Like it would just not end well. But it's interesting to see everyone's bodies. Like I actually prepped my sister, and she went over to do WNBF as well. And she's complete polar opposite to me. She needs all the carbs. Like she needs like 4 boxes of cereal, where I'm completely opposite to her. And I'm like, don't give me any carbs. Like just give me like a few rice cakes just before I get on stage so I can pump up.
Wow. That's so interesting. Okay, so even though obviously you guys are sisters, did you go into it expecting that maybe she would need less, or was it throughout the prep you saw that she responded well to carbs?
We both had the same coach. I think that was 3-4 years ago now. Well, 2018, 2017. We both had the same coach. So I kind of could see like what he did, and there was a show that she came in so flat, and I was like, Beck, you need carbs. Like we were literally competing in the same show in IFBB, and I was like, Beck, you need to eat some carbs. Like you need to feel out. And she was like, oh, I'm just gonna listen to, but yeah, she's like, oh, just listen to our coach. And I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. But then literally after the show, she ate like a cinnamon scroll or something like that, and she looked amazing. Like, so she needs like carbs and fats to kind of like fill out her body, because she's a lot more petite than me, and she just needs a lot of carbs. She's very like carb dominant, where I'm kind of more about like I need fats and like moderate carb, moderate protein. I'm just like, yeah, I think my body's just really sensitive.
Absolutely. So you were able to see that from her experiences and then apply it and contrast it. And it's interesting too, because you recommended like, okay, yeah, you should get some carbs in you, and you saw that. And now I'm assuming she's had better preps because of it. I think sometimes it's scary when you're a competitor and you can see with your body, maybe something needs to be different or change. And you're looking at it and you're like, what if we tried this, or what if we tried that? And then there's that other voice saying, just stick to what you're supposed to do or what you're being told to do.
Mm.
Did you ever change anything from your plan or from things that you were told to do when you felt that way?
All of the time. I'm
Really?
like the worst athlete. Just because I mean, I listen to my coach and stuff, but I'll also like talk to Scotty, like who's my coach now, Scott Goebel. So we'll more have like discussions. I'll be like, hey, look, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I feel. This is what I think. And he'll be like, no, like this is the reason why I'm doing X, Y, Z. This is why you're doing X, Y, Z. And then we'll go, okay, sweet, no worries. I'll trust you and I'll trust the process. Where with previous coaches, they've kind of just given me like cookie cutter, here's the plan, off you go. And I've known that, and then so I'm like, well, I'm not going to follow that, because I know that's not specific to my body, and I know what my body likes and what it doesn't like. And that's when I've kind of done my own thing, I guess, and I suppose experimented with my own body. Yeah, but with Scott, like I find we're really good match, just because we have really good banter, and we can just talk smack, I guess. And yeah, like I can just be like, hey Scott, I feel like I'm not lean enough. I think like we need to drop my calories, increase cardio, whatever. And he'd be like, no, like, you're still dropping, blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of just reins me back in. So in that aspect, I wouldn't just go do it without his say so, I guess, because then I know I would be kind of like ruining his plan. Just because, yeah, if you pull the trigger too quick, then you can, it's all about peaking and doing things at the right timing as well. So yeah, I try and just, trust him, trust the process, but I will communicate if I am feeling a certain way. And communication is key to coaching. It's a two-way street,
Definitely. And you're a coach yourself, so you've had both roles and you've played and you do play both roles. So as a coach, how do you maybe approach or program for clients according to their goals, or maybe when they have questions or concerns like that? How do you prioritize communication?
Yeah, so I love getting on phone calls with people if they're feeling, I suppose, like uneasy and stuff. I think it's better to talk through it than just email back and forth or messaging back and forth. Because I think when you're talking to someone over the phone, you can get so much more involved in what's going on. And, they might just be like, oh, I'm just really not feeling it this week. And you're not going to get that much information out of them when you're texting first. If you jump on a phone call and you're like, okay, so like, why aren't you feeling it this week? What's going on? Like, and you can really delve into it. And then turns out that, they might have had a breakup, or their dog had to go to the vet or something like that. And they're just, they've got the period or something, it's just all like, life's just kind of like, it's all happening. And so that's why sometimes it's important to also, have that relationship with your clients that they can trust you wholly and solely. So then, they do tell you all these things, because it does all impact their body. Because I think like your mind and your body is so connected. If your mind isn't in the right spot, you're going to get inflamed through your body, and it kind of, yeah, it's just, nothing's going to work. Even if you drop calories, increase cardio, whatever, like it's not always the answer. Sometimes I've had girls that have been stressed and stuff, they're doing uni, they're working full time. I increase their calories, and then voila, they drop like 2 kilos, and you're like, oh, there you go. Like sometimes you just need a good sleep and a nice little refeed.
That's interesting. I like how you share how you approach it and you're experimenting, and you also get to talk to them about what's really going on and here's what might be beneficial. And if you don't know what's happening under the surface, it's difficult to really make maybe the best judgment. And I think it's a great approach that you're taking. And I was actually curious if any of your experiences with coaching from a client perspective has impacted the way that you approach or your style of coaching.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've had 3 coaches now. So funny story. So my first ever competition I did, I actually prepped myself. So I
Wow.
think
Oh
I
my
was just born to
gosh.
be a coach, to be honest.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, like it's so cool. Like I've always been really interested in science, and I just see my body as like basically an experiment, and just changing one variable at a time. Like that really interests me. Like I'm just so fascinated by it, and I'm fascinated by data. But then, yeah, I think like just with studying psychology, I think I really got into the mindset side of things, and how that can affect your eating habits and your training habits and lifestyle. And then, yeah, I've just learned a lot from my previous coaches as well. And yeah, like I'm just grateful that I was able to experience other different coaching styles. And, I think that's the thing, is like there is so many coaches because not one coach works for everyone. So I think you have to find a coaching style that kind of works for you, because not everyone is autocratic, and those leadership kind of qualities as well. Or some people need a bit more empathy than other people. And yeah, it's just a matter of finding what works for you, I suppose.
Mhm. So when you are, let's say, getting an inquiry from someone, how do you determine if they're going to be a good fit for you as a client?
So I normally call them. I've recently kind of got into calling people probably the last 6 months, and I found that it's so good. Just to be able to figure out if this person's the right fit for me, and if I'm the right fit for them, of course, as well. So yeah, I just call them, just ask them about their goals, what's going on in their life, what they think would work best for them, and just like ask them about like injuries and all that kind of stuff. Just figuring out who they are and what they want to do,
Mhm.
and just making sure that this is really what they want. Because I only take on 30 clients at a time, and I want to be able to give each client at least an hour of my time, like each week. And if you've got people on there that are kind of flaky and stuff, like these people are representing my brand and they're representing me. So
Mhm.
they're taking away someone's spot that could be with me. So I just make sure that they're serious about this, and if they're willing to do the work as well, because it's not like I just give them a program and it just magically happens. Like they still have to, I'm just like the lighthouse. I'm just guiding them to where they need to go, and they still have to do the work to get there.
So true. Absolutely. And I think too, when someone, let's say, books a call with you and flakes, or they take a spot from another person and you're trying to work with them and support them, it's not necessarily that you don't like that. You just want more for them. you know, like you want them to want to show up. You want them to show up so you can help them. And I think one of the hardest things as a coach is if someone ghosts you or doesn't let you know what's going on. You're like, oh my gosh, like I just need to know what's happening. And I do agree with you. It's very important to make sure it's going to be a good fit with whoever you're working with. And earlier in this podcast interview, I was about to say call because I feel like I'm just talking to a friend in this podcast interview, which I do feel like, you know, anyway, it's always like that. It's always like, oh, I'm talking to friends, but we were talking about how you really believe in being mindful. And I would love to know what habits you personally take part in every day that support you mentally and physically, that you encourage others to do as well, or that you've found to be impactful.
So with this one, I found mindfulness after my 2018 prep. So I gained 10 kilograms in 8 weeks. So I gained a lot of weight. I don't know how much that is in pounds.
I want to say it's like maybe 22 pounds.
Yeah, so it was not comfortable. I was literally binge eating, and I could see that in myself because like I was studying like at the time and stuff. I literally just went from like doing, because I just did so many back-to-back shows. I think I did like maybe 12 shows back to back in like over 2 seasons. And so when I came out of it, I just didn't really feel like I had the support from my current coach at the time, and I didn't really have any direction of where I was going. And I didn't know anything about like reverse dieting and stuff like that. It was like, oh, this reverse dieting thing, you got to do it. I'm like, okay. But it felt like when I was reverse dieting, I was literally just restricting myself so much that then I would then go like overeat or like binge eat or whatever. And like, so I found mindfulness because I was doing this for about 3 months, like the restrict binge, like, and I was really struggling. And then I was talking to a few girlfriends about it that had competed themselves, or, you know, just talking to people. And I found the book Brain Over Binge. And then I did a little bit of my own research and things. And I found a few podcasts about like binge eating and mindfulness eating. And that's kind of how I got into it. And so that was the first mindfulness kind of act that I would do, was when I sit down to eat like breakfast, lunch, dinner, I always sit down at the table, no distractions, no TV, no phone. Like I'm not always perfect, but I try to, and just sit down and just be with my food and just, I suppose, be present and be like mindful of every single bite that I'm eating and smell the food, appreciate the food, and just be grateful that I've just made this meal for myself, and sharing like gratitude to myself as well, because I think we just get so caught up in this like whirlwind of life. We're just like hurrying through life, and you know, especially like in prep and stuff, you're like eating on the go in the car and stuff like that. So I think you're always kind of, we're just so busy. And I think that was the first time that I kind of actually just stopped and just was like, okay, I'm just going to sit down, be present with my food. And I found that my digestion got better. It just allowed me to take a break as well, especially when I was still working full time in the Air Force. So I found like if I just sat down in the lunchroom and just sat there with my food and stuff, it was a lot better than sitting. I used to sit at my computer and eat like in the office. So just little things like that. It just really helped me get control of my eating habits again. And yeah, I definitely found that was the most helpful thing. And so I keep doing that practice. But even now I practice yoga. So I do try and do it like 2 to 3 times a week. Sometimes, you know, life gets in the way and stuff, but I definitely try and do that. And I walk my dog every morning and most afternoons. So I just don't have my phone, don't have any distractions. I just try and like look around and just appreciate the day, take it all in, and just feel the sun on my skin and just smell the fresh air and stuff like that. Because I think we're so attached to our phones and constantly have people 24/7 access to us. Like it's important to take that time out for yourself and just ground yourself again. And then, yeah, I live near the beach as well. So I love like just going down and sitting at the beach, or going for a swim, or just, you know, sitting there and just listening to the ocean. It's like just little activities that ground you. I think is so, so important.
Oh, I love everything that you just shared. The whole time in my head, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. This is so important. And I appreciate you being open about that and sharing exactly what you've been doing because there's so much value in what you've shared. And I don't know if you know much of what I do, but I help people, specifically competitors and athletes, with their relationship with food and their body and their goals. And a big part of the relationship with food is a mindfulness-based eating approach. And as you said, a big part of that comes with being present with your food, understanding what senses are being activated. What am I thinking about this food? And I love when you brought up gratitude. I think that when we're grateful for our body and everything that she does for us, we're more likely to nourish her and be there for her and take that time for her, like you said, doing your yoga, going on your walks, disconnecting. Spending that time on yourself is so self-loving, and even just knowing it's okay to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, to eat a meal without distractions. It's beautiful, and it's actually truly nourishing. So I am so grateful that you brought that up, and I think it's awesome that you were vulnerable in sharing your experience as well. And some of the points you touched on that I think are great, maybe red flags for people to consider is, have you thought about what's going to happen post show? What are
Mm.
your goals after this show? When you hear people talk about reverse dieting, what are the perceptions you have of that experience? Because I find so many people just think it's normal to binge and go off the rails. It's really not. It doesn't have to be normal. Um, and considering, what do I want to get out of this in the long run? So again, I appreciate that you continue to use those habits and you share them with us. And if you guys are listening and you're struggling with this, please know that there is help out there. Even if you never get help from me, like that's besides the point, but just know you can. And I encourage you to find help for this because you can progress out of it and you can get to a much better spot. And Jess is showing that as well. And I'm living that way too. So it's fantastic. And I think to that point, Jess, I'd love to ask you about what your approach in improvement season looks like compared to prep. Like, how do you maybe shift your mindset or shift your approach, if at all?
So at the moment, I'm only working out 4 to 5 times a week. And that's just what my coach has given me. And I'm actually quite happy with that. I find that it's a good balance. And then I can always do like little extras like yoga or whatever on top of that. And then with my nutrition, I pretty much just eat the same thing every day. I've been very intuitive these last few weeks. I was tracking my food, but I did find that I was getting a little bit too obsessed with the numbers and with my food and stuff. So I was like, okay, we need to just take a step back here. Let's just go back to the basics and just eat, the 3 meals a day and then have my pre and post workout snacks. And I just find that works really well for me because then I'm not fixated on the food. And I find sometimes I just need that little bit of a break just mentally. Yeah, and that's fine. Like it's okay to not track all the time or not always eat on a meal plan. I plan out my food. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have oats, like protein oats for breakfast, and then I'm gonna have like a burrito bowl for lunch, and then I'll have steak and potato or whatever for dinner. But I'm not like, oh, I've got to have 120 grams of steak and stuff like that. Like I just don't weigh absolutely everything. Like I weigh like my nut butters and my oats and stuff like that, but I'm not fixated on it, I guess. Like I'm just not putting too much energy into it because I find when I do that, I do get a little bit too obsessive and then it just kind of goes the wrong, like the scales just get tipped a little bit. So I'm just trying to find balance. But at the moment, I'm just really trying to spend time with family and friends because I find in prep you have to be selfish and you're spending so much time at the gym doing your thing, like working hard. You don't have that flexibility to go out for lunch or dinner or nights out and stuff like that. So yeah, just trying to have balance on the weekends and just eat healthy for my body because I know that at the moment I'm just kind of thinking about my recovery from what I've just been through with prep. Like my body has it's just been through so much stress and it's done so much for me that I'm just trying to give back a little bit of love right now.
Mm.
Like I'm so happy I just got my period like last week.
Woo,
Yay!
congrats.
Yay for health. So I actually only lost my period like I think a month out from comp, and then I was actually due for it like in between states and nationals. So yeah, I didn't lose it for very long. And that's just like a testament to, I suppose, my coach and myself working together to make sure that we're doing it healthily and doing it, we're not pushing the boundaries too far to reach those goals. And I think also the fact is that we worked together in the off season and we built up my calories really high. So then my metabolism was high, and like he's always focusing on my metabolism. Like he's always like, okay, so we need to have a diet break to bring your metabolism back up. Or the calories are quite low right now, but it's not going to affect you, as it's only going to be for 2 weeks or something like that. So like if we do lower calories, it's normally just for a short stint, then we come back out of it. So I think that it's really good to have a coach that is thinking about your hormones and your health and your metabolism, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's good to look good when you get on stage, but when you get off stage, that's when it all unravels. And if you're not if you're not healthy, you definitely notice it post comp. And that's what I noticed back in like 2018, was I wasn't healthy. I was getting liver enzymes like excreting into my bloodstream and stuff like that. I had a really dry pancreas, and that's just from overeating protein and not having enough carbs and fats. So yeah, it is super important, guys. Like I can't stress it enough to make sure that you have a coach that knows what they're doing and that isn't just being a cowboy. And and especially like I find a lot of people also just get on like the drug bandwagon and stuff like that. And it's like, you don't need to do that. Like I literally have been natural like my whole life. People ask me all the time, like, what am I running? And I'm like, I don't run. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, oh no, what are you running? And I'm like, oh, I was like, no, I don't. Like, I was like, I've literally just been training like since I was like 16, 17. Like it's just time, like. And yeah, like it breaks my heart when girls are like 18, 19 and they're asking me like what steroids to take and stuff. I'm like, oh girl, no, like no, like, oh, stop. Like, yeah, like you don't need to take any of that stuff, girls. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just think, time, just be consistent and just take your time, like I'm 26. When I was 18, I looked completely different than what I do now. So, just take your time.
Powerful lesson there. It's not about racing to the finish line. It's about really relishing in that process and enjoying it and accepting the growth that's going to come and trusting that it will. And you shared some vulnerable moments, not just mental health, but physical as well, and how that impacted your journey. And I'm really fascinated by the fact that, your numbers changed in your blood work. You've now prioritized and really have focused with your new coach on your metabolism. And you mentioned, you do short stints if it's a low calorie, you got your calories up high in, an improvement season. How do you approach preps then? Are you taking long preps so that you can have some of those diet breaks and you can make adjustments?
Yeah, so normally I would do like a 16-week prep. The prep I just did was pretty much, it was only really like 12 to 10 weeks because they only announced the show quite late. Like we didn't know the show was on until, I think it was about 12 weeks out. So yeah, it was very like kind of short prep because I was like dieting and stuff, like, getting ready for it, but I wasn't fully like committed and serious because I was like, well, like the last show got canceled like 10 weeks out. So, like we'll see, we'll see what happens.
I
And
feel
then
that.
once it actually got announced, I was like, oh, okay, it's go time. Like, let's do this. So it was definitely the shortest prep I have done. But definitely next one will be longer and it'll be like less extreme, I guess. But even like saying that wasn't the worst prep I've done in regards to like cardio and nutrition and stuff. I wasn't completely dying. Like there was days, you have those days where you're like, this is tough. But
Yeah.
I've had tougher preps where I've had to do more cardio and eat less kind of thing. So I hope next one is even easier, I guess. I feel like though, I don't know, no prep is easy, but I find there's definitely like easier preps than others because you don't have to go as hard. Especially if you've got a longer prep, you can have those diet breaks and you can cycle like your macros. So you can have like, your high carb days and low carb days and stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's really cool and something to consider as well. And plus, it's about where you're at in your journey. And you've been, like you said, in this for a while. You've learned a lot. You found what does work for you, and you and your coach have collaborated a lot on that. And something that I noticed specifically on your physique is, and you shared this on your Instagram, and that was that you really transformed your glutes. And your training, I think, probably changed with that, or I'd imagine it would. So how did you do it? Because in your Instagram post, you said you focused on squeeze, tempo, eating a lot more. So more specifically, what was your guys' approach?
I'm so like, I just can't believe like I never thought I'd be the glute girl. Like, growing up, I was like pancake butt, like literally.
Really?
Yeah, literally, I had like no bum, and like people used to like call me like beanpole because I literally was
Oh
straight
my
up and
God,
down.
that's terrible.
It's so funny. Um, but yeah, so pretty much I focus more on like the tempo and stop ego lifting. I stopped like being like, yeah, I gotta go lift 120 kilos, like I
Mhm.
just stopped doing that and just started like focusing on moderate weight. And some days I'd have high rep days and other days I'd have like lower rep days. But I wasn't doing like 5 by 5 or anything like that. It was just like um most of the time I was just working on like unilateral work as well. So I'd do like B stance, hip thrusts, just
Ooh, I love
working on different
those.
techniques and finding out where I could hit my glutes the best and isolate them the best. So I played around a lot with, foot placement. So had my feet elevated when I did hip thrust, tried different box heights. Like I would, yeah, do like single leg hip thrust to warm up as well. So without the weight, and then I'd do B stance with the weight. Um, yeah, and I guess like I just really focused on like isolating my glutes with like booty bands and stuff, like warming up my glutes as well properly. So I do like 10 to 15 minutes of like isolated glute work before I actually got into my workout. And yeah, I'll do like pretty much like 4 or 5 sets um of a I suppose like an exercise. And so pretty much like my first 2 sets is like warming up, slowly increase the weight. And then my next 3 sets would be like working sets. So I found like working sets, like in my mind is like, okay, like these need to be hard and like, you need to be feeling it. So I found that really helped just changing my mindset, I think, and really just focusing on that mind muscle connection and squeezing the glutes. And I did a lot of just research myself just to, look at different methods or, glute kickbacks and stuff like that. And yeah, just did my own kind of experiments in the gym as well. Like I just experiment on like my foot placement, like foot in, foot out, like, what works best. And where can I feel it the most? So pretty much it's just like, okay, where I can feel it the most and where it really hurts, that's where I'm going to go.
Yes, that's awesome. Rather than like the path of least resistance, it's like, okay, let's go the path of most resistance.
Literally.
I
And just,
appreciate you sharing that. That's cool. And were you about to say something else? You just what?
oh yeah, I was just gonna say like time and attention. Like I
Mm,
just really slowed down my reps, like really, really slow, like controlled the whole time as well. Like I see sometimes people in the gym, like especially hip thrusting, like they might have 120 kilos on their barbell and they're like hip thrusting, but they're like kind of like jerking it up and down where
mhm.
it's better just to scale your weight back a little bit and, say like do 80 kilos and just like have that time and attention where you're not dropping the weight every rep. Because you're going to gain a lot more glute activation and get a lot more glute growth from doing that than just doing like 5 reps of 120, where you're like, I just don't think that's really good for your hips either. Like you're like slamming the weight kind of down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't be too good for you. Like if you're doing 120 kilos for controlled reps, like go nuts. But if you're kind of like jerking it up with your back, like I just don't think that's you probably just need to scale it down a little bit.
So what is your tempo usually looking like? Like, are you doing something like a 3-2-1? Are you doing a 3-1-1? Are you doing maybe like a very slow eccentric, a big pause, and then a slow and a slow concentric? Like, what's your approach?
Yeah, I normally just go 3-2-1. But yeah, sometimes I'll kind of play around with it. And sometimes I'll go up quick, hold for like 4 or 5 seconds, and then come back down nice and slow. Or like the other way around, like go up nice and slow, hold, and then come down like quick or slow. So yeah, I just kind of play around with it, and just depends on what I'm feeling like on the day. But I
Mhm.
also like pulse reps as well. Love a pulse rep, because it's actually like proven that, especially in squats, the most amount of activation is down at the bottom of the squat. So like when you do like that little pulse.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love playing around with like just different like half reps or quarter reps and stuff like that. I like add that in, and it's a good way to just like get that progressive overload as well without increasing your weights. So I always think like before you increase your weights, like have you tried different tempo, and have you tried like adding in like a half rep or a quarter rep or something like that. Like try and just add something else in to spice it up. And then like if if you're still finding that super easy, then like add some weight. But normally you can make something harder. Like I always tell my clients, I'm like, can you make that harder? Like, is there any way you can make that harder? And if so, do it. And then if it's still too easy, then increase your weight.
Oh, I love that advice. That's fantastic. And sometimes like I find myself in the gym like, oh, I just want to lift heavier. I want to lift heavier. And then I'm like, well, let's take a step back. Like, what was my tempo actually like? How did I feel when I was performing that? Like, where did I feel that? And I noticed then I'm more likely to try something like you said, a different type of progressive overload, or switch something up, or hold it longer, or maybe do a drop set, or go to
Mhm.
failure, like throwing in a different training variable is a great way of essentially challenging the muscle and putting a new demand on it that doesn't necessarily revolve around and going up in weight.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like at the end of the day, like we're bikini girls. We're not trying to be like strongmen or anything like that. So like, but our goal is literally to grow that muscle. So it's like you don't need to like people have proven that you can grow muscles with bands. Like we proved that
Yeah.
in COVID. So you don't necessarily need to be hitting PBs every week to grow muscles. So it's like, how can you grow muscle, like work smarter, not harder kind of thing. Like,
Mhm.
and in a shorter amount of time, like you want to think, okay, I've got an hour in the gym, how can I hit every muscle that I need to hit in this hour like time frame? Like, if you're getting in there and you're doing like 5 by 5 I don't know, deadlifts or something like that, and you're resting 2 minutes in between, it's going to take a lot longer than if you say increased your rep range, and you worked on a little bit of a different tempo or something like that. So yeah.
Man, I'm loving this. I love everything that you're sharing. It's awesome that you're sharing so generously, I should say. That's the word I'm looking for, generously. And there's a lot of intelligence I can tell that you have. And I've appreciated everything that you have shared with us and all the things that you've taught us along the way, and your goals as well. So I'd love if you could leave us with maybe your best advice for someone who hasn't competed yet but wants to, and then your best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Ooh, okay. If you haven't competed and you want to, I would just suggest like working with a coach early. And I don't think I competed until I had like at least a year, 2 years under my belt of being consistent with a program. So yeah, I definitely think like you should be working with a coach like at least like a year before you even step on stage, because you have to build that muscle first before you can like shred down. Otherwise, if you just shred down, you're gonna like end up just looking like there's nothing there, like it's not a nice look. Where yeah, you want to build that shape first. It's like building a cake. You got to build your foundation before you put the decorations on. So yeah, make sure that you like find a good coach. Make sure that you get references first. Like ask people in the gym, ask like their clients as well. Be like, hey, like how do you find them? And yeah, just find someone that you gel well with and that can have a chat with. Especially for first timers, I think maybe finding someone that is face to face can help. I suppose like just build up their confidence a little bit and like help with form and technique and stuff. Especially if you're not like super experienced in the gym. And then for someone that's an amateur trying to turn pro, like just be consistent and persistent. Listen to your coach and just play the game, I guess. Like look at the shows that will work for you. Kind of just stay with it and do what, like if you want to be a pro, you have to act like a pro. So just start doing what pros do, like, you know, practicing your posing all the time, doing your cardio, don't skimp out on your reps and sets and stuff, like, you know, do your program to a T and just give it your all and just don't give up.
Awesome. I love that. Like I said, do what pros do. Like if that's what you're expecting, then that's what you should do. Thank you so much for that, Jess. And I would love if everyone would be able to connect with you, because maybe even they'll find that researching and working with you is great, or maybe they just have more questions for you. So where can people connect with you?
So Instagram, I'm just on there as Jess Johnson Fitness. My business Instagram is also Team Jess Johnson Fitness. Or you can go onto my website, www.jessjohnsonfitness.com. I also have YouTube and I put up my my show days up there as well. I'm just about to upload my national show day and my pro debut. So you can also find me on YouTube at Jess Johnson Fitness.
Yay, that's awesome. I was actually on your YouTube yesterday. I was like, where's this video? I really want to see your pro debut video.
Oh my God, it's taking so long to upload. I'm like literally like keep refreshing it. I'm like, why are you taking so long?
That's awesome. I'll put all of that in the show notes page. So I'll put your website, YouTube, Instagram, business Instagram, all of that in the show notes. And again, I just really appreciate you coming on, being so open. And to everybody listening, thank you guys for tuning in. Please, you know, tag us as you listen, tag Jess, let us know what your major takeaways are, if you have any follow-ups. And with that being said, the show notes page is always on celestial.fit/podcast. Jess is going to have an episode right at the top if you're listening on Friday. If you're listening in the future, you just go to the category section and you'll scroll to the J's. You'll click on Jess Johnson and you'll be able to see all the show notes. That includes episode timestamps. So if you're like, oh, what was she saying about what it was like to go on the pro stage right after earning her pro card? Well, you'll be able to find that. So that's all on celestial.fit/podcast. And thank you guys again for all the support to the show. And Jess, thanks again for coming on.
No, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Of course. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this podcast.